You know, guys, I've told you this before, but one good thing about not doing a review the exact day that an episode comes out is that I get to see how other people are feeling about it, how you all in the community are feeling about the episode. And I got to see how a lot of people did not like this episode of Jujutsu Kaisen today. So, I thought I'd come into it and think to myself, oh, this isn't that bad. People are overreacting. But, I gotta be honest. This episode does feel a little weird to watch. Particularly, it kind of feels a little janky. I don't know if that's just me, but there was one scene in particular that I was watching and I couldn't help but think, this doesn't look that good. I have to admit that. And we'll talk about that when we get to that scene, but this seems to be a pretty divisive episode of Jujutsu Kaisen today. Maybe my opinion will change as we go into it. So let's do just that and talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Episode 8 today. So as our episode begins today, I think Gojo's very first thing he says perfectly summarizes how some people feel about this episode. As he says, well, this is awful. There's another veil centered underneath here that also traps non-sorcerers inside. As we see Gojo just casually walking over everyone's heads. And as he's looking down on everyone like a god, he says, I think I have a good idea of what they're after. So, I'll play along. And it's here as we transition to our next scene. It's time to see who Itadori was paired up with in this event. And it's an interesting pairing, actually. As we hear Yuji say, they're making Gojo do this alone? I understand the logic, but there has to be something we can do. As Mei tells him, of course there is. That's why we're heading to Shibuya now. And I gotta tell you guys that these two got a weird feeling relationship. Are they actually brother and sister, by the way? As we meet Team Mei, consisting of her. Apparently, this kid's name is Yu, very creative naming scheme. And our boy, Yuji. Again, quite an interesting pairing. As even our boy Yuji's like, alright, we don't have the time for this shenanigans. And it's here Yuji gets his wish, as Mei gets a call and then suddenly tells him, Itadori, change in destination. Another veil like the one over Shibuya was lowered in Meiji Shrine Station. So naturally, we're heading there. Oh, we're running, by the way, so try to keep up. As our boy Yuji is pumped to get out there. And it's here as we transition back to Gojo. We see that things are about to get a little interesting. As he descends down to the railroad tracks and says, I see you're all fully prepared. As we see quite a few familiar cursed spirits show up right here. As Gojo tells Jugo, you won't have any excuses left when you lose this time. As Jugo rebuttals and says, but have you given thought to the first excuse you'll use when you lose? As we get our title card. But we'll come back to our boy Gojo in a sec, because it's here we actually transition to Itadori and Mei making it to their destination, and they're getting a bit of an update on the situation. As we hear, there's a veil to keep ordinary people trapped inside, covering the entire underground subway station. And within that, there's another veil centered around the platform on level B5 that prevents sorcerers from entering. We believe the cursed spirit or cursed user who lowered these veils is located somewhere between these two. As Mei asks, so not on the platform they're centered around? And she's told, we believe they're most likely taking on the risk of being outside. The veil as well in order to strengthen the barrier. 2 of our assistant supervisors have already been taken out. And it's here things get a bit more serious as she adds, also in between these barriers, we can't say for sure yet, but there are transfigured humans between the barriers. And upon hearing that, our boy Yuji gets triggered. And it's here as we transition to our next scene. We see that Mei Mei is currently surveying the area with her ability using a crow. As we see that this crow gets taken out here. As she says, alright, I've got the gist of this situation. As she says, Itadori, which would you prefer? Killing lots of weak, transfigured humans? Or exercising one powerful cursed spirit? As she says, knowing you, it's probably the latter. And it's here she shows him a map. She tells him, alright, the transfigured humans are mulling about and attacking normal people here on level B4. The majority of the normal people are probably at the train platform on level B5. I'm guessing they're forcing normal people to flee to B5 and serving them up on a silver platter. Also, my crows got hunted down here between B1 and B2. This is likely where the cursed spirit or cursed user who lowered the veil is. As Mei Mei says, maybe they're planning to hunt down any common people that come back up. Or maybe it has something to do with the veil's conditions. But it's unclear why they've chosen this positioning and what they hope to achieve by isolating B5. But our boy Yuji doesn't care about any of that information at all, as he tells her flat out, he's here though, right? That curse, as Mei Mei tells him, maybe? My crows got killed before I could confirm seeing Patchface, so I don't know. Though all the transfigured humans would suggest most likely. So with who's going where out the way, it's time to go over the plan, as we hear. The two of us will take exit 7 directly to B4 and rescue the civilians. If it gets too dangerous, you head down there as well. Though, if I can be greedy, I hope that by the time we reunite, the veil will be lifted, the civilians will be freed, and we'll know what our opponent on B5 is after. As Yuji tells her, don't worry, Mei. I won't lose anymore. But as we transition to Yuji heading to the scene of the crime, he's not too happy to see this cursed spirit in the middle of a meal right here. As Yuji right away asks, the patch-faced cursed spirit is here, right? Where is he? As our Locust boy says, Mahito is below. I'm here protecting the veil. As we see, Yuji has a lot of unsettled business with Mahito. And as Yuji starts addressing the situation, he says, so is this thing responsible for the veil? Both of them? That doesn't seem likely. As he notices the nail in the background and says, this thing did say he was protecting the veil. Which makes that object very suspicious. So I'm gonna smash it. So with that out the way, he immediately gets to work and hits the shit out of this cursed spirit here, saying, all of you need to stop underestimating humans. As we hear the cursed spirit say, you don't know what curse I am, do you? Did you know the not clever ones die first in this world? And as we transition into our next scene, guys, I could have lived my whole life without knowing this information. But I'm going to teach it to you all today as we just hear Locust Plague. A large-scale disaster rising from an outbreak of locusts. The locusts will consume not just crops, but paper, clothes, buildings, anything and everything made from plant fibers. A locust is required to eat its own weight in food every day to grow. So a locust swarm weighs 1 ton. Must consume 2,500 people's worth of food every day. Once the swarm is passed, it leaves behind a wasteland covered in the black fluid secreted by locusts, creating a sight that is far from tranquil. Mankind has long feared, hated, and cursed such demonic pests. And to all this information, I say kill them all, burn them with fire, get them out of here. Fuck locusts and grasshoppers. But with our locust lesson out the way, now we transition into our fight. as Yuji says, "What incredible jaw and jump capabilities. The fact that it can understand speech means it's decently powerful too, right?" And it's here as it grows wings out its back, it charges straight at Yuji. And it's in this scene where some of my gripes are with the episode. I gotta be real. Because as we're watching their fight with Yuji dodging this thing, it kind of looks janky and weird. And they reuse animation in some spots, which normally isn't bad. But when you reuse something that's already kind of janky, it's jarring in a way. This scene just felt very weird to me, personally. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments. But to me, this fight wasn't done that well. As Yuji thinks to himself, this thing probably doesn't have any hidden tricks up his sleeve. As our Locust friend asks Yuji, "So are you clever or are you not clever?" "Because I'm clever," as Yuji tells him. You know, clever people wouldn't really go around calling themselves clever, would they? As we see Yuji literally square up with this man right here. It's actually kind of funny to me. Because now it's time for a battle of fisticuffs. As they just start punching into each other. As our Locust says, it's time to go fist to fist. Your 2 arms versus my 4. And for a little bit, they seem like they're evenly matched. But Yuji very quickly turns the tide here and overwhelms him. As our Locust says, "Why am I the only one getting hit here?" And it's here as he shoots poison at Yuji. He quickly dodges and prepares to finish him off here. But this is what our Locust wants, as he tells Yuji, "I told you I'm the clever one." And it's here, it's time for another Locust lesson, guys, as we hear, "Locusts lay their eggs underground. To facilitate this, they're capable of extending their abdomens, the tips of which are hard, to nearly 3 times their normal length." As we see, he tries to stab Yuji with his tip. And bro, what is this image right here? What the fuck is this image, bro? But our boy Yuji smashes his fist into it and says, "You've eaten people. You're prepared for what that means, right?" As Yuji literally kills him off screen. Wild. As Mei realizes that the veil is lifted. And that Yuji succeeded. And it's here as they all meet back up together. Mei tells him flat out, "That's impressive, Yuji." As she tells him, "To be honest, I thought you'd struggle a bit more with that. You're practically a 1st grade already. I haven't seen anyone get this far without a technique since Kusakabe." As Yuji tells her, Patchface wasn't there. If I'd been fighting him, it would not have gone as easily. And it's here as they get to their destination, they suddenly see this woman staring off into the distance, menacingly. But it's here as we transition to our next scene, it's time to get back to Gojo. As we see the cursed spirits have blocked him off. As he says, "You don't need to do all this. I won't run. If I did, you'd kill every human in here, right?" And it's here, we're going to see just how prepared the cursed spirits actually were for this day. As we transition to a flashback and hear Geto say, "Do you understand what Satoru Gojo is able to use his power to the fullest?" Side note, before we continue this, by the way, it's really weird that they're doing this on a playground, because think about it. The kids here can't see the cursed spirits, so they just see Geto here talking to himself, blowing bubbles on a playground. Really weird when you think about it, honestly. As Geto answers his own question and says, "When he's alone." As we see in present time, they use all the people here and drop them into the lanes that Gojo are in, getting in his way. As Gojo says, so they sealed the exit off earlier to create a blind. So I wouldn't know if there were other people on the other side or not. As Geto says, any Jujutsu sorcerer with him is basically a hindrance. So we'll go one step lower and completely surround him with non-sorcerers. as we see Jugo just start indiscriminately killing people, as Chozo uses blood manipulation, slicing exorcism, and tries to attack Gojo directly, which of course he blocks. But that gives Hanami and Jugo a chance to attack him head on here. As we hear Geto say, the minimum output of his curse technique reversal is double that of his amplification. It'll be nearly impossible for him to use it without catching non-sorcerers in it too. He probably won't be able to charge his blue up to an effective output either. It should prove difficult for him to use blue for high-speed movement as well. It'd make him a dump truck as far as non-sorcerers are concerned. Get hit, and it's instant death. So in that situation, even Gojo will have to focus his energy on defense. As we see, Gojo does stop these two with Infinity. But it's in this moment they both use domain amplification. And all of a sudden, they're starting to put a little pressure on Gojo, as Gojo dodges and lets them hit each other here. I gotta say real quick, guys, it's kind of wild to me that no one is kind of freaking out right here. Even if they can't see the cursed spirits, they can see Gojo clearly fighting against something, you would think. So it's kind of weird that no one's freaking out here. Just saying. But as our smoke clears, we hear, makes sense. I suppose you would think that after allying with curse users. As Gojo says, domain amplification, huh? It's the same principle as the new Shadow School's simple domain. They envelop themselves with a domain. While it reduces its guaranteed hit effect, it ensures they neutralize any technique used. And that would allow their attacks to hit even me. And as we transition back to the flashback, Jugo asks, so what do we do about his domain, Infinite Void? As Geto tells him, the only ones unaffected by Infinite Void are Gojo himself and anyone he touches. Even if he does have the skill to selectively trap you all in it, a great number of non-sorcerers would get crushed to death in the space left between his domain and the veil. Chances are 99% that he won't use his domain. But that means you can't use your domains either. Because if you draw a large mass of non-sorcerers into your domain, he'll be forced to give up on these people and use his too. Meaning, you're done. As Geto says, I just need you to get Gojo to focus. Focus on defeating cursed spirits and rescuing non-sorcerers. And it's here Gojo tells them all flat out. Honestly, I'm shocked here. As he takes his blindfold off and says, I'm shocked that you ever thought you could beat me if this is all you've got. As Geto tells Jugo, I want you to hold out for at least 20 minutes against Gojo of all people. After that, it's time for me and the prison realm. And on that note, our episode ends. And I don't know, guys. I wouldn't say this episode is inherently bad, but I don't know. It felt weird to watch. I was watching it thinking to myself, man, this episode doesn't feel that important. It's really in a huge explanation dump and then a pretty janky fight for the most part. And I don't know. It's certainly not how I was expecting Shibuya to go, at least in the beginning. And yes, I know it's going to pick up, but I gotta say, kind of a weak start so far, guys. Gotta be real. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode down in the comments. I caught that little prison line, little prison realm part, guys. Trust me. I have a little bit of an idea of what that is already. And I'm excited to see it. So let me know your thoughts on this episode down below. But until next time, I hope you all have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day. And I will see you guys next time. Deuces.